I'm Dr. Richard Carrier, and you are watching Atheist Edge.
Hey, what's up, guys? We're here. This is Atheist Edge. I have actually a very eclectic panel today. We're going to be talking with the Satanists. We got Satanists here,
Woo!
So that's awesome.
Yes.
So we got Chris also, who's going to be talking with us, and Courtney, of course, is always bright in the day. So actually, what I wanted to do first was actually get right into. I just want to talk to the Satanists first to get what their group is about, what they're representing here on the show, what they wanted to if there's some things that they wanted to talk about or get right into. I'm gonna let them pretty much talk for a while. Mm-hmm. So we'll give it over to them. We have Rose and Marius here. And they are representatives of a local Satanist organization. So with that, we're gonna turn it over to them and allow them to speak. So
should we start with a little bell?
However you want to handle it.
Okay, cool. Well, hello. I'm Rose Vespera. So I grew up very in a charismatic evangelical household. So I was very fervently religious, as most kids are, and that all stopped as soon as I discovered the internet, which is how it goes for many as well. I read the Satanic Bible when I was probably 15 or 16, sneaking it at Borders back when that was still a thing. And I really liked a lot of what I read. It didn't quite all resonate with me. It was a little too elitist. I was more into witchcraft and the occult and all that sort of stuff for quite a while. But I was also reading Dawkins and Hitchens and Carl Sagan and all that good stuff around the same time. So I started leaning closer and closer towards atheism. I still like the Dark Lord and all the aesthetics of witchcraft and stuff, but I realized, maybe Satan is the person for me. But I started organizing some community groups starting in my later teen years. So I've been a community organizer for a little while. Just different things in the pagan, occult, and atheist communities, like open circles, where we had holiday celebrations and just tried to build community for people from any background that may have found themselves as kind of an outsider. So I didn't really feel comfortable using the term Satanist for a little while because most of the I love the glamour of the 60s through the 90s Church of Satan and Xena LaVey going on Bob Larson's show, and how cool everything looked, and these dark occult rituals and all that. But the people that I knew in real life were not always, there was a lot of angsty teenage boy basement dwellers that I was I don't know if I really fit in with that. So once I started to learn more about satanic communities and beliefs and books and all that were a little bit more progressive and more artsy and romantic, the kind of stuff that I like, I was okay, this is cool, I can go with this. So fast forward a couple years back, it was 2016 sometime, Marius and I were both solitary Satanists, and then we went to a Satanic Temple event together. It was really wonderful, a beautiful ritual. Long story short, we ended up being recruited to help lead a local chapter. So that was a thing for a while, and then it was in last year, during what the media termed the Civil War of the Satanic Temple, we dissolved the Satanic Temple of Dallas, and we founded the Crossroads Assembly, which we're co-founders of and here representing today. So that's awesome. A little bit about
What's the full proper title?
The Crossroads Assembly.
Crossroads Assembly.
Yes.
Okay.
Because where do you meet the devil? You meet
at the crossroads. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's very clever.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to clarify. You're talking about doing rituals and things. Mm-hmm. So what would the biggest difference be between your organization and a normal, a regular atheist organization? Because I'm not sure if you guys identify as atheists. Mm-hmm.
It's a good question. Our general praxis is definitely atheistic. We're atheists. Most of the people in our group are atheists as well. We have a couple people who consider themselves agnostic Satanists, some that are a little bit more into spirituality, and that's cool. We're all into polydoxy. So, but our general, the organization itself is atheistic. So we do a lot of the same things that atheist groups do, to create community. We have we're just a little bit more churchy, and we do have holidays and rituals, but there's nothing that we say that's innately spiritual about them. For instance, when we do rituals and we have a positive reaction to what's going on in the ritual, and it's really like affirming or inspiring, we don't believe that we're actually summoning demons or worshiping a real Satan or anything. It's like, we know it's brain chemistry, but it works.
So what we do is when we say ritual, we do the whole incense and red lighting.
Yeah,
and
we
all
go
that.
all out.
We've got
Create the whole atmosphere.
an altar, and our altars are male or female, and a lot
Or
of
non-binary.
Yeah, a lot of traditional. They're like, oh, you put the woman up there. We don't care about that. It's whoever wants to be that altar. In fact, our rituals include where you ask the altar if they want to participate in the ritual, and so then they serve that purpose as an altar. The purpose of ritual is as a psychological break from things, and so one part of our ritual is an unbaptism. So many people were baptized as children against their will, unknowingly, whatever. At a year old, what do you know? And so they even though they've come to they become atheists and they've embraced Satanism for whatever reason that they have, that stain of Christianity is still upon them. And I say Christianity because most of the members that we work with are Christian. We've got some others, but for the most part, it's Christians who do that non-consensual baptism. And then there are those that Baptists who under peer pressure at 13, 14, 15, you have to get saved. All your friends are getting saved, so they carry this stain of baptism. Even though they're atheists, even though they're rational, and they know that baptism meant nothing, psychologically there was some violation there, or some coercion. So the opportunity to have a ritual where you get to free yourself, we literally cover them in a cloth, and we put a minor binding around their hands. We say some words, they yell out, yes, I reject all these things. Then we yell to them, and we don't free them. We say, free yourself.
Yeah, they choose to break free from those
They break
binds.
their bindings. They remove this call over their face, and now they're looking with their eyes in a world that they want to be in. And
Yeah, they very much create their own future, right then. They are telling all of their peers they're telling the world, they're telling themselves, most importantly, I am choosing symbolically, ritualistically to break free from all these things from my past, from anything holding me back, from the stain that I feel that my religious upbringing may have had on me, if somebody feels that way. And it's really powerful. It brings people to tears. It's really meaningful because it's you finally get a lot of people feel like they finally get a chance to be okay, this is it, this is official, it's gone, I don't have to fear hell anymore, I don't have to feel this guilt, this shame. So it's really impactful for a lot of people.
It's an opportunity to provide someone agency in their lives that they feel may have been taken from them. So it's just a little bit of psychology. It's really just psychodrama, but for the benefit of the individual, if they need it.
Yeah.
It's there if you don't want to go through it. And that's the thing is, so there are so many atheists. I was never baptized. I don't feel this need to go through that ritual, but I recognize the need in others. So for us to create that ritual and perform that ritual for them, it's a nice thing.
Yeah, that sounds really powerful.
So that's
cool.
So that's ritual. And then of course we also, we can't talk about Satanism and ritual and not talk about a black mass. If you ever want to come
I
trample
don't know much about it.
It's great fun. Great fun.
if you ever want to trample the body of Christ, I can help you with that.
Well, because
I've eaten them enough, so why not trample?
Right? We get legit communion wafers,
Communion.
and there is a point where we raise it up and we dash it to the ground. And stompy time. It's great.
The altar defiles the host.
Yes, the altar defiles. So traditionally, And yeah, so the Church of Satan has an old school way of doing all this. They always have like the blonde female altar laying there, and yeah, she doesn't do anything or say anything, which is that's her thing. That's fine. And then there's the insertion of the wafer into a bodily orifice. That's not something we do.
Wow.
I know that's the old school way. I'm like,
fun already.
I know. So that's the old school way of doing it, and they say it's taken from like historical texts and all that, and that's fine.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and if somebody wants to do that on their own time, that's cool. That's not something that we'll do in ours.
Well, before I forget, we forgot.
The only thing that I knew before this about like Satanist as an atheist label is the Satanic Temple, which to my understanding is mostly an atheist group, but uses the label as a way to make change in the public sphere, to point out like Christian privilege of representation by the U.S.
Could be a handy tool.
But I wasn't aware that my question would be like, is that what you guys are, or is it like a separate thing? And then I just didn't realize that like there was an entire like ritual and culture around Satanism, like as an identity versus just as sort of an arbitrary label that in every other context you're just an atheist group, and then you kind of use it as a tool to make that statement.
I'm going to give you finger guns and say I like your description there. So she's about to yell a word. Official statement. So the Satanic Temple, we're not, they're nice people.
Affiliated, right?
That's not us.
Okay.
Lucian and all of them, they put together this kind of almost like an art collective, and they were doing performance stuff.
Political action.
Yeah. They got into activism, and that was their thing. To me, I think the religious side of it kind of came later. That's my opinion.
Some chapters are more religious than others.
Right, and so
individuals are all different.
Your description of an atheist group is that also took on this label. We met Lucian. We've hung out. We've discussed Satanism. We've discussed his Satanism and mine, and so he's a Satanist. I won't deny that. But as far as what TST, the Satanic Temple, they're an activist group. To me, first and foremost, they are religion. They are recognized as a religion. In the Satanic world, a little behind the curtain thing. People hate to talk about denominations or branches of Satanism and all that. If we're going to be a religion, then let's go ahead and call it what it is, and there are denominations.
Right, would you consider it a schism? I mean,
I think we are in the schismatic phase. Like the Church of Satan is very, absolutely. The Church of Satan is very much like, we're the one true Satan. Anton LaVey founded us, and nobody else is satanic. You have to follow his works. And I'm like, you don't really. There's not a monopoly on the figure of Satan, right? It doesn't make sense. So I think there are definitely denominations, and TST has their own thing going. COS has their own thing going. A lot of other groups have their own thing going, and have before.
Yeah, the history of Satanism. Let's ignore the 18th, 17th, 16th century, all that stuff for a second, and let's just look at the 19th and 20th century. Satanism really was, the flag was planted in popular culture somewhat by Crowley, but really it was LaVey. Yeah, LaVey really planted the flag and said that this is, Anno Satanas, the first year of the age of Satanism. And from there, I mark that calendar. So, we are in Anno 54.
Yeah, it really was a new satanic era. Like, it wasn't really codified before then. And that's fine to recognize. Like, we celebrate that when we celebrate the Satanic New Year.
But, I mean, that was 1966. By 1975, Aquino had already branched off. He was the number 2.
Yeah, Michael Aquino, if you look him up, he's got, like, the eyebrows.
He was
He
on
was
Geraldo.
LeVay's right-hand man.
For those of us
yeah.
who are old enough, he was on Geraldo and Jesse Raphael and all that.
Satanic Panic.
That's so long times I heard that reference.
right. And so he branched out and started the Temple of Set. And so I mean it's just
wow.
it's
Which
really-
also had federal recognition as a religion.
yeah
Point that
yeah
out.
he was an Air Force officer.
Yeah, he worked in military intelligence, didn't he?
Yeah. So he.
That's
So
his
there's some
contradiction in
Illuminati
terms.
kind of stuff there.
Well, seriously.
Aw.
So I mean, there's always this, everyone is splitting. Then came Order of the Nine Angles, and and just all Werewolf Order, all these different groups, and then finally, most recently, the biggest splash on the scene has been the Satanic Temple.
Correct.
And as Rose mentioned, I was burnt out on organized Satanism myself. I forgot to do my bio. I came to Satanism
Yeah,
back
tell us
in
about what-
'86.
Yeah, tell us about you.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
You're interesting guy.
We're interested
Talk
in
about it.
I think so.
We want to hear that. Yeah.
All right, so Marius Omnes. So everyone likes Nemo because that's so
Yeah.
Omnes means no one. So I am everyone because I am.
Omnes,
So
Yes.
Nemo is no one. Omnes is everyone. Sorry, I'm everyone. So
Brush up my Latin.
right. I was a Jehovah's Witness. I mean, like knocking on doors at 6 years old. I was. I know. Now I think about it, it's like, man, what a little.
You're that guy.
That's cool.
Yeah, how do you do that? How do you get someone to open the door? You shove the kid first.
Oh, he was precious.
This is true. This is true.
Yeah, so
Kill them with cuteness of children.
I mean, really, who's going to listen to a 6-year-old with a Bible? I mean, what knowledge do I have?
Surprisingly, lots of people, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Slam
I've
the
seen
door
Jesus
that
Camp.
face.
Yeah, Jesus
Right,
Camp.
right.
That's what-
Yeah.
Jesus Camp is one of the movies we're going to talk about in my presentation that we're going to give probably after this interview.
Yes.
I
went to a Jesus camp. I know all about it. That was me.
I was that guy. I was that kid too. Yeah.
She made
Yeah,
me watch
yeah,
that
yeah.
film. That film runs like what 80 some odd 90 minutes long.
Oh,
no,
cringe.
He was
No,
yelling.
no,
He was
80
yelling at the
minutes,
screen. He was mad.
That film took almost 2 hours or better to finish because I would pause and yell at the TV.
Wait a minute.
This isn't right.
Pause.
What?
Let me explain the science. Let me
Rage
explain
out.
this. Right.
Let me just point out how wrong all this shit is.
man.
Yeah, so and I was on stage and I was preaching and with the JWs and by 16 surprisingly so this is 86, the Satanic Bible was actually in the high school library, and so I got a chance to read that in school.
Damn.
And what state was it? Was this Texas?
Louisiana.
In Louisiana?
Wow.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, you didn't peg you for a Louisiana man.
Oh, no, I'm a
You
Texan.
don't have, okay.
I'm a Texan. I just have.
You don't have any you don't have any of the accent that they have.
Oh, and when I start to speak French, then my drawl comes out.
Oh, okay, yeah. Like, you have to switch to a different language.
He does like crocodiles though, or alligators, whichever one we
gators
have.
down there.
Gators,
Oh,
gators.
yeah.
Sorry, they're cute. What do we call them?
They're Louisiana yard dogs.
Yard dog.
Right.
Or scaly boys.
Scaly boys.
Oh,
There's
wow.
a little snooze, little hard. They're cute.
So I have heard of like the tenets within Satanism. It's like 10 tenets or something.
Well, it
Yeah.
depends.
So-
Yeah, Church of Satan has like the 9
But
satanic
I haven't
statement.
heard of like a Bible, like a book. You said.
Yeah.
the Satanic
Bible.
Right, you were talking about
I've
how
never
it
heard
was
of that.
published, there was a copy in the school library.
So
Yeah.
much to LeVay's credit. So I mean, it's one thing to sit there and say, we're an organization when you're sitting at your living room, couch or in your kitchen. I mean, to LeVay's credit, I mean, he wrote a book, he put it together an organization, so he did that right. The Satanic Bible is very much it is a microcosm of the 60s, the mid 60s.
Very informed by the sociological
Right.
stuff
So
going on at that time.
so in response to the hippie movement, flower power, and all that,
Hmm.
which was still on the rise. I mean, they were based in San Francisco, so he was seeing this, and so he kind of countered with some stuff that was cribbed from, or reinterpreted by. Rand and Ragnar Benson and some of this idea of might makes right and all that, and that's social Darwinism was still a thing. I mean, you have to think we were coming out of the first half of the 20th century.
The bell curve was really popular. All sorts of
Well, that was-
pseudoscience like that.
Yeah. So this idea of social Darwinism was a thing, and of course now that's been debunked. I think the last vestige was the
I
bell
don't think
curve.
she was. I don't think that she was advocating social Darwinism. More, it was more about rational self-interest.
Right,
Um,
and so there are parts of the Satanic Bible that actually LaVey's words are actually really good. If you can kind of clear out some of the other stuff and kind of get to the core message of you've got to focus on yourself, you've got to. I mean, what's the famous quote that's always misattributed? Sometimes Lincoln, sometimes Franklin. You can't help the poor by becoming the poor.
Right.
That sort of thing. You
Wow.
have to. You have to take care of yourself.
Yes.
Well,
On
you
the
take care of
airplane,
yourself
what do you
first,
do?
then you move outward in
Absolutely.
circles, right? Like you take care of you, you make yourself a better person, because then that way, then you can help your family, right? You can take care of your family. Then you move outward to your community,
Mhm.
and then you move as outward in as many circles as you can get,
Mhm.
And so I think definitely you hit the nail on the head. On that.
On the airplane, the instruction is you put the oxygen mask
Yeah.
on
yourself
yourself first.
Yourself, yeah.
then your neighbor.
Yeah, and I think I'm in total agreement with that. Like you should, it's like that whole thing that activists have with burnout. Like if you're an activist in the community but you don't, have enough self-care. It's the same sort of concept. But the problem with LaVey is that he was
Right.
too individualistic, and they're 100% against any sort of collectivist ideal, and they don't believe in satanic community. They'll say it on their Twitter, like you can go look it up. They don't believe in equality or equity or anything along those lines. They're very much like we're the alien elite. We're above others, and I'm like, we're all fucking human. Like, what are y'all talking about?
Right. And that's where and so I took the good part of that message and where Christianity was telling me to be self-sacrificing and to have that Christ complex and to give of yourself to this
Yeah.
nth degree.
Messiah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I read this book and it tells me no, you don't have to be like that. And that started me down that path of 30 some odd years now of Satanism. And so, but what I learned along the way was, so just broadly speaking, Satanism has a problem with fascists and Nazis in it, because there's this conflation of, well, we're weird, you're weird, why don't we be weird together? No, because you suck.
Yeah.
So there's that element, and so that's why I would bump up to satanic communities, and then I would fall out because I'm anti-authoritarian. How can you be part of the rebel faction? How can you be part of this? I'm going to stick my finger in God's eye and be part of the accuser, but I have to fall in line.
Yeah, like I mean,
There's a benefit to hierarchical structures in society, though.
Yes.
I mean, that's a demonstrable.
yeah, it really depends. Like
I'll give that.
Yeah.
But there's there
To an extent. Right.
The but I put in there is that depending on the motives of the individual, and so I started falling away from this kind of rightist religion,
Yeah.
because there's definitely that element in there, and so I was always looking for something that was a little more progressive. And then as Rose mentioned, we're hanging out, we're kind of solitary, I'm just doing my own satanic thing. TST comes on the scene, and it's like, oh, okay, good for them. And then Rose mentioned there's going to be a thing here in Dallas. I'm like, I don't want to go.
I made him go. I was like, come on, it'll be fun.
Haven't heard it before.
Right, I was like, well, that's the thing, yeah. So we go and we have a good time, and I'm talking to leaders of the Satanic Temple. And he's like, and I tell him who I am. And so I've done community service work. I was part of the Betwixt and Between, the largest pagan community center in the nation. I've done this sort of stuff. So I like being part of an organization. Metroplex Atheists.
Good shout out there.
Yeah, yeah.
And by the way, we have, sorry not to cut you off, but we have the president of Metroplex Atheist sitting here in our
Wonderful lady.
presence, so, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, Metroplex Atheists and other groups, the Weatherford protest where we put the crunch up in the town square.
That's
the
spicy.
residents were circling.
That was popular.
That was crazy. And so I like, we need community, as you're saying.
For sure.
It's a big need.
Yeah,
Some structures, if they're positive structures.
Yeah,
right.
positive.
And that organization can create the change that you'd like to see. Like it can make things happen at a larger scale than what you can do individually.
Right,
Yes.
and not a knock against atheist communities. I think atheist communities, we're on a
What
spectrum.
was that sigh?
Yeah, there's been some hubbub
okay.
recently.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
We know about Pajamas.
Yeah,
Always
it's
drama
been a while,
everywhere.
yeah.
You get 3 atheists in a room,
Very
you get
human.
5 opinions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and it's the same as CrossFit or
It's like
veganism or
herding,
anything
what's the
else.
saying? It's like herding cats. Like it's just not gonna happen. Like it's.
But I think as far as atheists go, we lack community, so we need community and we make community. The problem is there are in American society there are certain structures in which we consider community, and so on a spectrum there is a need for community. You have your lone wolf atheists who they are happy to live their lives, and honestly that's the ideal. If you could get to a point where you can just live life and just be, isn't that what we're supposed to be doing?
Well, and finding that community in other ways,
In
like
other ways.
other interests, like
As
secular
not
interests.
defined.
I think a lot of people need that community though.
Yeah.
Like,
And they do.
It's a natural human
even
need.
introverts. I think even introverts
Oh,
can
yeah.
still benefit from being as a recognized part of the rest of society. I mean,
Well, but
it's
you can gather around like D&D or something. Like it doesn't have to be
Yeah, it
something.
doesn't have
So
to be
stereotypical.
religious. But there,
Yeah.
there are plenty of satanic groups that have like weekly D&D stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I know. I mean, it's
Love it.
great.
Love it. It's great.
So,
But that's that spectrum is, so you can have a lone wolf, you can have someone that, okay, game night is cool. Someone wants something a little more. They want, they want a Metroplex Atheist. They want something that is organized, and I go to an event, I get some education, I can, participate in some activism, and that's their engagement. Honestly, I see us as kind of the other end of the spectrum, because there are some people, and I mean atheists, who have not. Honestly, a complaint I hear is leaving the church means leaving my family, leaving my community. So if that person is not able to fit into some of these other communities, if they feel that they are lacking, it's not that they're bad atheists. I think that there's
I think there's a way to be a bad atheist.
Right.
I mean, really?
it's just a state of
we don't have,
non-belief, right?
Well, or lack thereof.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. And so I see us as filling that niche of being able to, you want 6 holidays a year, we'll give you 6 holidays. That way, when everyone is buying Christmas presents, you can go buy presents for your family, your satanic family, and do your thing. That way you can participate. Because I mean, as atheists, there are times when you're watching everyone at the office, they're decorating their cubes or their desks or something, and that ain't my thing. But that's your level of okayness. I mean, I can be cool with like y'all put up the decorations. I'm just going to do my thing. But there are some Satanists who still want that. Well, I want to enjoy holidays. I want to. And believe me, as a Jehovah's Witness, as soon as I started celebrating holidays, because I celebrated
Because that's like outlawed in JW. Like,
yeah, there are no goddamn holidays.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as I got the chance, fuck yeah, I'm putting up a goddamn tree. I'm, we're buying Easter baskets. Fucking,
I'm an atheist.
want
I
all
still
the
celebrate Christmas.
Yeah.
I still do gifts.
Yeah.
I still
we celebrate
love
Christmas
trees
along with
and
our
decorations
stuff.
and,
That's great.
and all the cringy Christmas music that's played on the
It's
radio
sweet.
incessantly.
It's
I have made atheist Christmas playlists.
Atheist Christmas playlist.
Atheist like Christmas songs that either just don't mention God, like Frosty the Snowman or something, or things that are like written by Steve Martin or Tim Minchin, things like that. One of my favorite like Christmas songs is White Wine in the Sun with Tim Minchin. it's a very beautiful way of enjoying the holiday and enjoying the family without having the dogma attached to it, and still appreciating that togetherness and gift giving.
Going for ancient wisdom. I don't believe just 'cause ideas are tenacious, it means that they're worthy.